Hey guys, this is the Scientific Knights here, and today I'll be talking about location, landscaping, and building your builds so that they have a purpose and that purpose fits the landscape and why you would build them in that landscape. So, without further ado, enjoy. Okay, so this is the first part where I'll be explaining to you why it's a good idea to choose the location of where you're building. Otherwise, you know, it all depends on location. So location is key in this. Like, if you're building realistic medieval stuff, that's a horrible building, by the way, forget it. If you're building realistic medieval stuff, you might want to have like your settlement or castle near trees, you know, good source of water like over there. And if you're building like a castle, make sure you have something surrounding the outside, the means to make a castle, like a kiln or crafting area. Like here, I've made my own makeshift dodgy kiln, which you've just got loads of the place, and that's where you put all the bricks. And then over here is where you make clay and stuff, and you've got some weird brewing hut over there. So yeah, also think about like whether to position a castle on top of a hill. This isn't positioned on top of a hill because I couldn't find a sufficient one to put it on. So yeah, let's go over to the next area, which is okay. Over here you've got castle, yeah. So this is a fortress city castle thing. That there was some land here and some water. I just burnt down the trees and then built a castle there, because you'll be surprised to find that actually a lot of forest areas are quite flat. So if you just burn down the trees, you've got a lot of space to work with. So like here, I've been experimenting with different wall designs there. And I realise now it's not completely centered, the gatehouse, but that's kind of how I wanted it. So even though I just said I realise now, but yeah, you've got to think, you know, what's the landscape and the advantage gonna have there. What advantages are your landscape gonna have for your castle or build? Like for example, this is a moat, meaning it's going to be harder for enemies to get into the entrance to the castle, because to enter the castle you've just got this narrow entrance. I mean, the castle is a narrow entrance anyway, the castle gate, but you know, you're extending that narrowness further, so then you've got even more soldiers packed up into one small space. So yep, and you've got to think what you're going to have inside here, so like a brewery and all that, a church obviously, and things that like little details onto it. So I've got these like archer huts or guard huts. I've got one on the side of here as well. It's pretty cool. So yeah, let's go on to the next one. Over here we have a cathedral, and I've built this cathedral in an open area, so you've got lots of sunlight. You haven't got a lot of trees blocking the sun. I've also built it in a position in which the sun rises and sets, so that the light creates some sort of omnipotent benevolence that you feel whenever you walk into the cathedral, coming through that stained glass window. Not finished. Barely any of my builds are finished. But this was mainly, it was just a facade. I wanted to see how far I could get with building a cathedral and whether I would be any good at it. So yeah, that's one bit. Like I said, you've got to think about the purpose of the build, because this is a cathedral. You're going to want a lot of light, and because you want a lot of light, it makes people feel closer to God, or this sort of sense of divinity. And that's kind of what you want in a cathedral. I know it's Minecraft, but you still want to stick to something realistic. Okay, so we'll move onto the final location for this episode, or section of the episode. Bodiam Castle. I think it's Bodiam Castle. Or my idea of what it should look like, apart from the ruin that it is now. Yeah, in East Sussex. So this one is built in the middle of a lake or oceany bit. I haven't built any land underneath it, but you would want to build some sort of landform underneath it to make it look more realistic, and the slopes as well, for it to be able to sit on the landscape. The reason I've built this in the middle here, because it's mainly a defensive castle, so you want a massive moat, as well as, you know, you've got access to water, mainly cleaning water, not drinking obviously. That's why people build wells, but because it's in the middle of a lake, you're probably not going to have a good well unless you've got a large landform underneath it. So yeah, defensive purposes, this is really good. Strategic purposes, yes, but not if they decide to hold a siege where you're stuck inside the castle because you've only got one entrance and one exit. And how are you going to get food to your people without having a farm? And there's not exactly any room for farms or a well, to be honest. So yeah, you have to think about structure as well. So for here you've got high points where you're going to have people invading from land, so you want battlements that can protect archers, whereas on this side you're going to have square tower. So that's why you have round towers, to stop trebuchets from, or siege weapons from, destroying your circular or round towers. And well, not to stop them from destroying them, but if you had square ones they would just collapse instantly. And here you have a square tower and one over there for the purposes of it's easier to build and cheaper, and it will only be fending off ships over there. And I highly doubt you're going to find a ship with a giant trebuchet on it or some sort of catapult. You might do, but unless this is the 1600s and ships now have cast iron cannons, and you're practically screwed. But it isn't, so it's 1300, so you're fine. Oh, I'd like to envisage it as 1300s. So yeah, once again, thinking about location and what you're building there, as well as the purpose of the build and the purpose of certain aspects of the build, and how you would structure that around what you want it to be. And then over here you've got jousting arena, which this area could best be used for castle, I think, or some sort of fortress for like bandits if you wanted it to. But long stretch, I thought it'd be a great idea for jousting. And once again, you've got the bit for kings and stuff to sit on and down at. You know, you want to think about inspiration, like going on YouTube or looking at images from Middle Ages, like structures of towns, how towns were built, how certain buildings were built, the means that were made, means used to make those buildings, as well as the kind of structural integrity and all that, and how certain buildings were built. For example, I can't remember the castle's name. Crusader Castle. It was finished 30 years it took to build, and then it was torn down by a massive earthquake, and then they rebuilt it again, but with these giant slope walls, and it came to be known as a mountain. So you've got to think of location and purpose and how you can build around the location. So okay, yep, that's the end of the video. Thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to subscribe, like and comment if you want to see more, and yeah, have a good one. Bye.